Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Dr. Cybersecurity. And my first guest today is Melissa Brenner. Melissa, please introduce yourself and let's get into your conversation.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So Melissa Brenner. Currently, I'm in Baltimore right now. Was an Air Force brat, so I was actually born in Chanute Air Force Base, which is Illinois, which is where the Tuskegee Airmen originated. Then we did Illinois, Texas, Kansas, Tennessee, and then ended up here in Baltimore, which is where my family's originally from. So I'm currently working at Johns Hopkins University in radiology department. So I do their finance for a lot of the faculty and the research team. So I started with my bachelor's, which it was in business administration, and had a minor in software design and coding, and then rolled that into my master's in business and technology management. So touched a little bit on cybersecurity, but not, I guess not as much as I would have liked. So I'm hoping to learn some more in the future. So it's a little bit about me.
Great, welcome. That is a wonderful introduction.
Thank you.
And as we can see, so many different kinds of people join these conversations. And so it's wonderful for me to be able to talk to so many guests from all over the world. So what are some of the topics that you want to discuss that we can talk about today?
Sure. So I actually had, I guess, a topic to discuss and then a couple questions for you.
Okay.
So start off with my topic was, I think a lot of us are working from home, working remotely, kind of in a new capacity. I know at least at Hopkins, we've had a big uptick in external emails. I think a lot of people should, if your company doesn't offer or it doesn't have it turned on, maybe ask about turning on the feature that says external email use caution. But I've been getting a lot of like, oh, here's a training class for you, or here's a new job posting within Hopkins, and they're all spam. And even clicking the unsubscribe, is a phishing link. So I just thought that would be a great topic to start with.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely good. I did see the government make a lot of use of that. So they've been using that for quite some time, and I totally agree. That is a great idea. The other great idea is also to have a system where the email system strips off the actual hyperlink and actually shows you in text where it's going to take you. So you can't really click on it and you're able to see where exactly you're going to go. And sometimes it's not what you see is not what you get, right?
Right, definitely. I know I had explained to my team, because I had asked my team, were they getting these emails as well? Because I'm getting 10, 15 a day sometimes. Right. And they're like, just click unsubscribe. I'm like, oh, please don't do that. You don't know where it takes you, because that's like, they're not legitimate emails. So I think that's definitely a cool feature. I'll have to inquire about that.
Absolutely. So the other thing is that this is another reason why I realized some time ago when I was a CIO at a university, I realized that most organizations really should not try to run their own email systems, because nowadays you can get so many great email systems. And for universities, for example, Google Mail was free. I did a big project for one of the big universities where I planned for them how they would move from whatever email system they were running to the Google email platform, because they take care of a lot of things for a university, and most organizations should look at that. I have been using third-party emails like that for quite some time.
Yeah, and then so on to my question. My first question was, as a finance person, how do I guess kind of move more into the cybersecurity sector? So I do a lot with compliance and variances. So I feel like I already kind of have my toes in the water. But being in finance for 15 plus years, a lot of people look at your resume and they're like, oh, you're just a finance person. Even though my degrees are in technology, it gets pushed to the side. So I'm wondering, how does someone kind of maybe an older person, break into the field?
So this is a very important point. The first thing, I don't know if you've gone through my chapter 1 video that's on my website.
Mm-hmm,
How to explain cybersecurity. And I think that you need to make a version of that presentation for yourself, tailored to yourself, and how today finance, crime, everything leaves a digital trail. So for example, as a finance person, you would typically be involved in finding out fraud and seeing if somebody is mishandling the money and things like that. But if you don't know how to use technology and how the forensics aspects of it sometimes, so the forensics becoming a big field, and
Mm-hmm.
you're probably aware of that, right? And
Yes.
as a matter of fact, there are programs now that deal with forensics in accounting, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes they're tied in with the accounting degrees, but sometimes they're brought in as part of the cybersecurity and digital forensics curriculum. So many of the curriculum that I've designed actually help people solve crimes in a variety of sectors. So if say one of my students are going through a cybersecurity digital forensics program, then this is an aspect that we teach. We teach that basically what has become is that the field of cybersecurity is really the modern business field. So if you think about 40 years ago, when the business program started in the 1970s, we didn't have this digital environment. So a lot of the finance literature, management literature, all of that were designed for a different era. All of that has to be updated. And part of the problem is that universities aren't updating those courses. So what has happened is that it has been left to the cybersecurity professionals like us to update it. So this is why even like 4 or 5 years ago, people were asking me, should I go get an MBA or should I get a master's in cybersecurity? I said, well, depends on which master's in cybersecurity you go to, but if you come to my master's in cybersecurity, you will actually get a better executive preparation than you would get in an MBA. Because my executive preparation included all of those executive features, but also had how do you do digital strategy in an organization? Because it's all about people, policy, technology, all of these things. And technology literally comes last.
Right. So what are your recommendations for, like myself, like a finance person? So say I come across some fraud or some kind of security errors. Like, how do you recommend people kind of document that and take it to like their management or like superiors at school to kind of get that ball rolling for more cybersecurity?
Well, the process would be the same, right? Because some may involve crime, some may involve errors. So typically, how would you have handled it without having any background in cybersecurity, right? Because the whole field of cybersecurity is so diverse that essentially you just tie into your normal business processes of everything else. It's not like you overlay anything new. Does that kind of make sense? Or
Yes, it does. Thank you. So I guess on a lighter note, so what's your, I guess, favorite part of working with cybersecurity today?
my favorite part is people. I mean, because I sincerely believe that cybersecurity is people-powered perpetual innovation. It's all about perpetual innovation. And the innovation only happens from people. And I get to meet with so many different kinds of people that are using different aspects of cybersecurity. Because part of the problem that we have, this problem in the industry and in the world, is because most people equate cybersecurity with just security alone. But that's because they don't understand the field. If you think about, say, medicine, if I say I want to do medicine, people will say, well, what aspect of medicine, right? Do you want to be a pediatric physician? Do you want to be a epidemiologist, or what do you want to be, right? You want to be a radiologist? So in other words, there are these aspects of it, right? Well, similarly, cybersecurity is a vast field, and you have to figure out where is it that you want to really apply that discipline. So regardless of what discipline you're in, you're already doing aspects of cybersecurity and all that. And as you improve your, what do you call that, technical knowledge, and how you incorporate the knowledge and the various processes into your normal business operations, you will see that what you're doing is perpetual innovation. Because as you're learning new things, you incorporate it incorporating it into your business. I've basically said many, many times that cybersecurity leadership, the leadership aspects of cybersecurity is truly the way to lead in the fourth industrial revolution, where we are hyper connected between technology and people, and then people and people, and then technology and technology. I mean, this hyper perpetual connectivity at a global scale exists. There's nothing we can do about it. We are not going backwards, right?
True statement. So I guess, so besides, watching the external emails, so what other, like security tips do you have for everybody working from home right now?
Well, definitely observe the privacy features and things like that. Make sure that whatever you're saying online and whatever you're doing online is ready for public consumption. So you just have to be a lot more careful. I mean, we've heard many stories of people, I guess, caught in embarrassing positions and things like that, right? While they're doing this. And then, of course, you have to worry about, do you have a dog? Do you have children? What do you have? Are they coming into your conversations? Are they coming into your work environments? Are they coming into your corporate meetings? So these are all new things that we have to worry about. And the other thing is that really make use of the fun aspects of it. Because if you think about this particular thing that I'm doing, I'm only doing this because this is now possible to do. This is the only way to do it. So why not make the best of it? And look, we're all becoming what? TV show hosts and TV guests and all that. Why not? I mean, the TV people are doing the same thing, aren't they?
Yes.
And so,
right, I need their hair and makeup people, right?
well, yeah, I mean, we're all becoming hair, makeup people, lighting people. We're producing videos, we're editing, we're doing sound, we're all doing all these things. And in all sincerity, I see it as an opportunity for human innovation and learning to go to a completely different level. I am learning every day. It's amazing.
Yeah, I've actually really enjoyed working from home. I feel like I've gotten a lot more done, and I've learned how to do, more work with less resources. So I think it's been really great for myself. I know, unfortunately, a lot of people are struggling, but I'm lucky to have a job that I can do from home. But it's interesting. Finance is a position that they were like, you could never do at home, and now they're like, well, you're gonna have to stay home the next few months. So it's definitely interesting. How do we secure everyone's financial information at our houses? So it's been a really good learning, tool.
So yes, so this is another thing that you're mentioning. Many companies will realize that you really don't need to watch people come into work and leave work, clock in and clock out. I mean, those things were designed for a different era. In this era, do we really need it? I have been doing remote work for as far back as I can remember. I mean, we used to do it through dial-up lines in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm just very happy to have broadband and this high speed. So it's amazing that we can do all this audio video, my God. But I've been doing remote work from as far back as I could remember, because even to support our systems, we used to have to dial in. Sometimes we would dial into the system, which would allow us to even reboot the machine or turn off the power to the machine or turn on the power to the machine, all these things. Because my whole life in technology, I've always worked in very high risk, high secure environments. I work in a nuclear power plant too. So these things don't close. These are all 24/7 types of shops. And so we've always had to do it. But now many other companies are realizing that, wow, there's power in this. And then they were spending or wasting tons and tons of money, right? Flying all over the place and doing all these meetings, when in fact, all it takes is maybe a video call, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think on the financial and safety aspect of it is people don't realize how much is spent on rent and the computer networks at an office and office furniture, all these things you could kind of save money on which I think would probably be better spent on things like cybersecurity. But people, I think, don't realize the amount of money that goes into running an office space 24/7.
Right.
So another question for you. So when's your next book come out?
Sorry, what?
When's your next book?
So yes, I believe that that will be out soon. I would say within a year, I should have at least one out. I'm working on 3 right now.
Oh, awesome.
One is on a personal branding, because I feel like that is a very, very important thing that everybody needs. And I'm not really seeing a decent book on the personal branding. So I already have a course. I'm going to publish a book around that.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like definitely with working from home, people are not as much their company as their own personal brand. And I think people do kind of struggle with how do you brand yourself without, I think, coming across a little narcissistic. So I think there's definitely there's a fine art to it.
Yes, there is. And actually, Toastmasters helps. So
Yes.
this is one of the things that I have been doing in Toastmasters for quite some time, because one of the things that society kind of teaches us to literally suppress our talents, right? To conform. But that's crazy. Everybody has talent, and that talent needs to be flaunted, in my opinion, not suppressed. Because by suppressing the talent, we're actually diminishing innovation, diminishing talent, and we should never do that. So in Toastmasters, that's one of the things that we do big time. But it was fantastic talking with you, Melissa. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I am now going to bring in Robert Blackwell.
So my name is Robert Blackwell, educated at UC for my bachelor's and my master's degree. Received a bachelor's in information systems management with a minor in business, and I finished my master's in cybersecurity management and policy. So I currently work as a program manager for CACI as a cybersecurity program manager. I have about 25 engineers that report to me, and we're managing a large endpoint security effort for our client that we're supporting. So I just had a couple things I would like to discuss. Some of them you already actually touched on. One of the main ones were breaking into cybersecurity. I think a lot of folks have an issue leveraging their existing skills to break into cybersecurity. And Melissa just touched on it. She's been in finance for 15 years. And I think you answered that very well. I think more people have this misconception that they have to be technical to get into cybersecurity. I've noticed several people make the change from a project management perspective or an administrative perspective, and they come over and they help out with RMF, the 6 steps.
Yes.
And they're able to fit in really well with that because they have experience with, just compliance and different things like that. But I think that we need to get to a point to where we educate these folks to leverage their existing skills in order to move over. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, so this is why I keep saying to everybody, first of all, understand what cybersecurity is. Think of it as modern business. It's like, how do you explain business? Well, business is everything, right? Similarly, cybersecurity is the business for the modern environment. That's what it is, because we're leveraging a lot of technology to run everything. In the earlier days, it was all about finance. Today, it's all about technology. They say that technology or information is the new oil or the new gold, whatever you call it. That's what everything is, because if your information is flawed, everything else will be flawed.
Yes, I agree. The other topic, and I know you're definitely going to like this one. So I have a younger brother that's looking to get a master's degree in cybersecurity. However, as I'm helping him search for different coursework, I'm noticing that a lot of the universities are just using the buzzword cybersecurity. But when you look at the coursework, it doesn't, to me, appear to me to have enough information to make you ready in the field of cybersecurity. I think there are a lot of secret sauce things that you need to cover in cybersecurity. The scripting, system administration, all depending upon what area you want to go. If you're going to be technical, or if you're going to be more administrative or programmatics. But as I look at the programs, it seems like a lot of folks are just throwing out the word cybersecurity, cybersecurity. I was fortunate to take, you made a comment about the executive strategy for your program. You were the chair when I graduated from UMUC, and when I did management and policy, and I agree. I actually was able to get a flavor of the technical aspect, cyber planning, and the business aspect as well as we move through the coursework. But as I look at even some of these marquee universities, they don't really cover the secret sauce to move over into cybersecurity. So I just wanted to get your opinion on that and see what you had to say about that.
Well, the key problem in the industry is that in academia also, there's a shortage of qualified people to run these types of programs. Because, and you've probably seen some of my posts related to that. The whole doctoral programs in cybersecurity started in 2010. So there aren't that many people that have a doctoral degree in the field. So part of the problem is that too many of these academic programs will put in whoever. So sometimes universities have this situation. Many universities have this tenured faculty system and things like that, where they really don't want to lay out the faculty. And I completely respect that and I love that. However, just because a program is shut down, so let's say some universities noticed a decline in, say, the Department of English. So then they will take a tenured faculty in English and then put that person in charge of a cybersecurity program. And the person is, I guess, contacting vendors or whoever and putting something together and then reading from books with no job experiences in the field. This is happening in a lot of places. So this is why when I tell people to vet academic programs, I say, don't look at the university name, don't look at the name of the program, because that's not relevant. What's relevant is who is going to teach you and who is in charge of the program, because whoever is in charge of the program puts that whole program together. So the program that I put together at UMUC when I was there, that became an award-winning program. Why? In the 70 years of UMUC's history, that kind of awards was never won by UMUC. I brought those awards because I put a completely different spin to the whole program. The chair is vitally important because the chair designs the whole program and then supervises the rest of the faculty in delivering that program, because even the grading is very different, because as you probably saw, we had a competency-based program, which meant that it wasn't what you knew. It's how you applied what you knew to solve real world types of problems. My students were made to write like crazy. We made them speak. We made them do teamwork. We made them really apply the knowledge. They did requests for proposals. They did penetration testing. They wrote reports. They did all kinds of things. And if you see all of my graduates, and I'm sure that you will see in your own case, that you came out very different compared to other graduates who were coming out from other universities. Universities don't make the difference. What makes the difference is the chair, because this is such a new field. You don't want to learn from an English major. It doesn't work, particularly if that English major doesn't have any job experience in the field.
Okay, so yeah, I definitely liked the capstone course where you brought all the cybersecurity degrees, digital forensics, I think it was Homeland Security, and it was one other one. I can't remember which one it was, but we ended up having to work in groups to complete different projects, either addressing breaches or whatever it may have been, but it was good collaboration. The other thing I'll ask, I agree with you when you say that it starts with the chair. Is it possible to have all the, because cybersecurity is so well-rounded, there's so many facets to it. Is it possible to have the other chairs from like software development or maybe engineering or programmatics to come together to help develop that program? Because each one of those groups, they play a piece into the development of cybersecurity.
100% correct. So this is the other thing that I did. just because I was the chair didn't mean that I did all the work. I knew what work needed to be done, but then I brought in all the experts. Remember, I was a chief information officer for 12 years, and I already worked in energy, healthcare, biotechnology, and education. So I all worked in those sectors. Plus, I also did a lot of research in organizations. I met with many, many CEOs to find out how their organizations ran and things like that. So all of that experiences was what developed the program. But then I did not do, like, for example, the penetration testing that is in one of the courses. I brought in several experts to develop that course. There was one expert that did only one of the projects in that course. Also the labs. I wasn't building all the labs, nor would I want to. Why would I do that, right? Yeah, that is the whole, think of the chair as the conductor of an orchestra. The chair doesn't need to be playing all the instruments, but when all those instruments are played, they need to be played in harmony, in unison, so it doesn't sound crazy to the ear, it sounds beautiful, right? That is the role. And then the supervision of the faculty. My God, I had to get faculty from a variety of disciplines and then coach them, mentor them to the culture of what I was trying to establish. Because one of the things that I was trying to establish is, I don't care where you started, I do care about where you end up. So remember, we were giving you multiple chances to the projects. See, many schools, you do one shot, you grade it, bingo, you either failed or succeeded. My program wasn't like that. My program was what? No problem. Do another attempt with constructive feedback. We won't tell you how to do something, but we will tell you what you need to do. What were you missing? What were the aspects? Maybe this project had 50 elements that you had to address. You addressed 20 of them well, but the other 30 also has to be addressed, because that's what's going to develop your brain to think that broadly, right? And oh, by the way, it's not just doing it, also talking about it intelligently in a 5-minute presentation, perhaps.
Remember? Yeah, I just ran across my recording for one of the projects not too long ago. And the last thing I'll just ask, you said there's a shortage in PhD cybersecurity teachers. What program would you recommend if someone wanted to go pursue their PhD?
Right now, again, it's not the program. There are programs out there, but part of the problem has become, once again, the leadership, because it's not the program that makes the difference. It's the leadership and the passion. The thing that made my program different was the way I was continuously mentoring the students. I started a relationship with the students from the very beginning, and then carried that through even after graduation. So I'm still in contact with many of my graduates, and I'm still mentoring them. And that is key, because you need to be able to ask questions. You need to be able to say, okay, I've learned this and I've faced this other situation, because you will constantly face new situations. And my job is to continue to be that mentor to you, so that it helps you succeed faster. It shortens your time to succeed. It took me a long time to succeed, because unfortunately I didn't have that many mentors. But what I'm doing is totally different. If you notice, some of my graduates, even if they graduated in 2017, 2018, they're already superstars in the industry.
You create the blueprint.
Right. So the same thing with the doctoral program. I have developed a doctoral program, and I'm still waiting for the right university to launch it with. When that happens, I would love to have anyone, because the key is not the program again. It's that passion with which somebody looks after you once you join. Because the way I'm going to run the program is that we're going to do an assessment right at the very beginning. You will already have an idea of where you want to do your work, and you will already be assigned a mentor and a chair or dissertation chair at the very beginning. Because when you leave it to the end, which is the way doctoral programs are run today, you may never succeed. For the university, it may be okay because they get the tuition for the bulk of the period, right?
Yeah.
For me, if the student doesn't end up with the degree, I don't want to do it that way. It's to me, it's not ethical to leave the students on their own, because I can do better.
Well, I agree. When you get the program started up, let me know. I may pursue.
You will know it.
Thanks again for having me.
For right now, until I get a university where I can launch such a program, because right now I've tried multiple universities, and so far, and the right people don't have the power, and it's a serious problem. And so that creates a lot of problems for the students and the people. So for example, I mean, even the UMUC layoff, that was kind of crazy, right? It seemed like, again, the academics don't have the power because they could be just laid off on a whim. So
yeah, I agree. But thanks for having me.
Fantastic talking with you. I am now going to bring in Hima Bindu Vejella from India.
You pronounced it absolutely right, Dr. C. My pleasure to be part of the discussion.
That is great. So introduce yourself, say a little bit about yourself, and then we can go into your segment of the discussion. Sure.
I'm passionate about the cybersecurity and call myself a security evangelist with 17 plus years of experience in the industry. I started my career as a developer and then played multiple roles like technical lead, technical architect, and senior software engineer, and then program manager, product owner, and then senior engineering manager. In an MNC now, leading security and digital forensics and e-discovery. Apart from this, I am very passionate, extremely passionate on sharing the knowledge and giving back to community through my writing, speaking engagements, and recently we started Cybersci initiation, where we like-minded people like you all over the world, we are part of this initiation to empower, motivate, and get more professionals into cybersecurity, cyber law, cyber psychology. So I'm also passionate about getting more women, which is very rare in the security domain. That's all about me.
That is wonderful. So as you also saw probably in the previous discussions, part of the problem that I think we have where we're having this issue of not enough women and all that is because people still don't understand that cybersecurity is the modern business world. I think that once people start to make that transition, this will start to change, because I have never had that kind of an issue. My programs have had a significant number of women and all that. Not that I was consciously trying to recruit and all that, but people saw that we were going to accept anybody from any discipline. So my programs have always accepted anybody from any discipline. There's a lot of my students used to come from business, social sciences, and all that, because I have always felt that this field is for everybody. So as soon as we start making that discussion and training, so it's great that you're doing that training and the evangelizing and educating people, because that is critical. It will help you, it will help the industry, and that's exactly why I keep doing what I'm doing also.
Thank you. That's how we met, right? The like-minded people.
Yeah.
So I think it's God's choice that we met, and I think we can collaborate and do wonders in the future.
Absolutely.
This is the first step. That's what I feel. I'm very happy and glad to have this conversation with you, Dr. C.
Great. Dr. C. Oh, that's a new one for me. All right. I'm collecting all these nicknames.
new name that I coined.
Yeah.
So tell me about your Toastmasters journey, because I myself also a Toastmaster and really
Ah,
helped me benefited from this program, because I am from a medium of instruction which is not English, non-English medium. So that really helped me in become an international speaker today. So that would be actually helpful for the community. So could you please throw some light on that, Doctor?
absolutely. So one of the things that happened in my life is that in 1991, I joined a major company called Baltimore Gas and Electric Company. It was part of Future Constellation Energy. And over there at the nuclear power plant, one of the things that was very, very important was leadership, teamwork, safety, all these things. So they would put all these new hires through this battery of training and all that. And we were also given many, many free resources. So Toastmasters, as you probably know, is a very small fee, but there is still a fee. But as an employee over there, I didn't even need to pay any fee to join that. So that's how they supported it. So I was just there because it was free and they told me I should do it, right? Yeah. And so from 1991 to 1994, I was there. And a lot of people think that it's about public speaking, but Toastmasters is also about leadership, right?
Leadership, yes.
Yes, we have to do all these roles that we have never done before. And then you have to do sometimes the role on the spot. You arrive at the meeting and maybe they need a timer, or maybe they need an hour counter or something. So suddenly you do that role, or maybe you are the Toastmaster.
Leadership.
Right. Leadership, exactly. And we do this through practice. We also learn to listen, right? So you probably know that there is a listen master role, somebody who has,
Yes.
right.
Best listener, right? They give a
Yes,
ribbon.
like they question the audience on, okay, what did you so-and-so say? And what did so-and-so say? And all that. And that is because these are all skills. It's just like riding a bicycle or driving a car. If we don't, we never learn to ride a bicycle by reading about it. We have to start riding it, right? So the same thing. So what it did for me, those 3 years, what it did for me, if you notice, even in my normal speech today or anytime, I don't usually have the all these things. And if you, even when I watch TV, it totally irritates me every time I hear these professional speakers who are being paid multi-million dollars and they have all these speech defects. It's like, right, it's like a professional singer going on every line, and yet we're paying them millions of dollars. That doesn't make any sense. All right. These people need to go back, join Toastmasters, and get rid of these things, because you can get rid of them. I got rid of them. So that's what it did. Now, the beautiful thing about doing that is that when you speak clearly and when you don't have those defects, your audience does not lose their attention. Because every time you say, ooh, all these things, the listener's brain has to filter out all that stuff to be able to get your message. But if you already don't have that, and you can impact your presentation with these pauses, like notice that we have these pauses. So we learn to do these pauses instead of those pauses. What do? They make the listener anticipate. What are you going to say next? Right? So these are all things that I learned through Toastmasters, those 3 years. Then that is what led me to have a better communication style. The other thing is time management, right? A Toastmaster will typically be disqualified if they go 30 seconds above the time limit. So if they have been allocated 5 minutes, they can only go 5 minutes and 30 seconds, right? Beyond that, they're disqualified. That is very important. You must learn to speak within your time frame. So your message has to be succinct, well developed. So you learn to develop your speech that way. So that's another powerful thing. So my journey was like that. But then after 25 years, last year, I started thinking, okay, so I have had a successful career and all that. I'm sure technology has changed a few things, because 1991 to 1994, that was like eons ago. And I'm encouraging my students to go join Toastmasters. Maybe I should rejoin and see what they're doing today. And it literally blew my mind, because many things have changed. For example, one of the things that has changed is that typically most presenters give you a boring agenda at the beginning. They say, oh, we're going to go through all these things and all these topics. Well, actually, that's very boring. Why don't you say, what are the 3 critical things that I'm going to learn from your presentation? So that's one of the things that I learned when I rejoined last year, because some of these amazing professional quality speakers are in our club. And as soon as I rejoined, they told me, this is the way to do it. Give them the key lessons up front, then elaborate on those lessons during the speech, and then at the end, summarize again what you just taught them. And that way you're sandwiching your speech and making it more powerful. So this is another thing that I learned. And that has completely changed my speaking style.
Excellent, excellent. I think this generation is coming up with a lot more creative and innovation, adding to the leadership, right? So it has been evolved over the years.
Correct.
A lot to learn. And
correct. And the other thing is that we're now doing formal mentoring. So I just got elected president of our club.
Congratulations, Doctor.
Thank you. And actually, I'm looking at it as a learning opportunity for me, and to see what innovation I can put in and all that. So we have an amazing team, and we're already doing innovation. For example, one of the things that we're doing is we are surveying every one of our members. Why did you join? Because we want to know, why did they join and what do they want to accomplish during this year? Then we will passionately work to make sure that every member can achieve the goals that they joined for.
Yes, true.
Because maybe they want to do 5 speeches. Okay, we will assign a mentor to you to help you create those 5 speeches. And we feel like having that formal mentoring is going to expedite somebody's progress. So that's another thing we're doing.
Good. Good to hear.
Yeah. What else?
Very interesting and motivating. So one funny question.
Yeah.
Okay. So imagine that you and your family, wife and kids went to a long drive and went to a resort. Okay. So you have like a 1-year-old son at that time. And then, so you all were enjoying playing and having some recreation time. So suddenly a monkey has come. And you all were...
All right. This probably happened to you, right?
It happened actually, not for me, but it didn't happen. And you all were enjoying and did not look at the sun. But suddenly, it's like the small kid doesn't know how to protect himself from the animal. An animal may attack the kid, right? Because the monkeys, right, they do all mischievous things. So in this situation, if you are there, how do you save your son? What do you do?
So this is why vigilance is so important, right? Because while you are describing the situation where it was a monkey, in reality, kidnappers are around all the time, right? So it's just a situation where we have to be vigilant about our children and never take our eyes off of them. you probably heard stories where somebody went to a festival or a fair and all of a sudden their child disappears. Some kidnapper took the child away. And you probably have seen videos of that. I saw a video the other day where a child was about to be snatched and somebody was going to run away with that kid, but luckily it didn't happen. But it's the same kind of a situation. I mean, once it has already happened, you just have to do damage control. But ideally, this is why it is so important to make sure that we don't like abdicate our responsibilities, because we've also heard of people leaving their children in a hot car and the poor child even dying, right? But that's a funny story. I'm glad you asked me that because it brought back memories of India and that part of the region, because I know that that is very common, because we used to grow up with those stories like monkey could steal a child, a baby, right? So you have to be very careful. That is amazing. That is amazing.
So the reason I asked is we are all security professionals, right? So attackers are like these monkeys. So we have to be very, very careful, right? There are tigers, lions, monkeys attack our digital devices, and they may spoil the data and steal, right? Just for fun, or like they may want money or whatever it may be the reason, right? So as you said, right, I think we should be cautious, vigilant, and more careful in not only protecting our kids, the digital devices as well.
Absolutely. So this was an absolutely amazing and entertaining conversation with you, Hima. I'm so glad that you joined us today. That was a fascinating conversation for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now I am going to bring in Nicholas Ihuoma. Nicholas, please introduce yourself and let's go into your conversation.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing this morning? Thank you so much, Dr. Hasib, for having me on this conversation. I think it's a great opportunity to get to learn from fellow cyber professionals and professionals from across various departments, if you will. Mm-hmm. Well, my name is Nicholas Ihuoma. I am an IT project manager. I have been an IT project manager for about 5 years now. I deal a lot with risk management, risk management framework, a lot of strategic improvement projects, implementation, and things like that. I'm also a SQL database administrator as well. Okay. So coupling all of these two different aspects of IT in my work for the last about a decade now. I did my undergrad at Howard University, and currently I just received my master's in IT from UMGC. So it's so funny that you had mentioned earlier about you developing the cyber program there, because I'm currently taking a graduate certificate program for information assurance. So I'm seeing some of the work that you did, that you put in creating the lab environment there. I'm definitely loving that experience.
The information assurance program was not something that I did. That was a different program chair doing that one.
Oh, okay.
Technology program.
Gotcha. Okay, well, it's great being definitely a part of the institution in itself. I've definitely learned a whole lot. My question today, talking on the subject of risk and risk management framework, how best can project managers convince people like their CIOs and CTOs about the importance of conducting a thorough risk analysis of all projects, so that they are able to engage in, so that they understand all the components of the risk management framework? Like how best can one, as a project manager, convince a lot of these CIOs or CTOs, like you mentioned, some of them don't even have a strong IT background, but were given the opportunity to lead based on their managerial skills or management skills. How do you better explain the importance of these concepts so that they are able to translate that understanding in helping the organization perform better and manage risk better?
Right. So it's a challenge if you are not in a position where you can bring them in. So one of the things that I've often suggested to people is that, could you hold workshops? Is it possible that you hold the workshops and you bring them in and then do the training? I used to do a lot of that, and people did come. I used to spend a lot of time in training everybody. Even in my very first organization, there were about 500 people in the organization. I personally trained 400 of them. So sharing knowledge is probably the most powerful way to make friends, as well as elevate the proficiency level of your organization. I also think that you would bring value that way, because I don't know if you did the PMP certification program and all that. I did some of that. And one of the things, yeah, one of the things that we always stress on is training the people in there, because often many people that are working on a particular project won't have all of the skills that are required for the project, but typically the project manager has that broad overview of what this project needs to be successful. And you have to get either you have to hire the right people, or you have to retrain the people that you have. So one way or the other, if you want a successful project, you just have to get that knowledge level up. And that's what I can recommend. And then sometimes you might have to bring in other trainers if you yourself don't feel, say, qualified, or you feel like you alone doing all the training may not work so well, because sometimes you need to bring in a third party trainer. So a lot of companies bring in experts to do those kinds of training. And then sometimes when the company is investing in that, they feel like, oh, okay, we better get our money's worth out of it. So they attend the training and they do the training. Sometimes you have to send them out to the training. So who knows, various ways, but you have to get that training.
I see. Pretty much incorporating it in all that I do to make sure that the upper management teams understand what is important to as far as risk is concerned, making sure I at least expose them to the information.
Right. Well, not only just the risk, but they have to first understand the breadth of cybersecurity. What is cybersecurity, and what is its place in the modern world, and what is their role? I mean, they have to understand at least the first chapter of my book. If they don't understand that part, it's very hard to do anything else. That's the reason I gave away the first chapter on YouTube. It's out there on YouTube for anybody to use it, right? So that's a good place to start.
I see. Yeah, that's amazing. I appreciate you answering that question. My next question here is, this year, with the COVID-19 pandemic, plaguing our world today, especially in March, there was an article on Forbes that there's been a huge rise in cyber crimes. There've been a lot of DOS attacks, ransomware, BEC particularly, and dating romance scams. I guess my question is, how do we get people to be more aware of the reality of cyber risk and cyber crimes and the prevalence of cyber actors? Because the cyber crimes is not a new phenomenal. It's something that's been ongoing for years. And for some reason, it seems like, these guys keep getting either smarter, or it almost seems like people also are just not as aware as they should be. I asked this question in particular from the perspective of, companies, nations, just ordinary people. Like, how do we better inform them? What needs to happen to get people to be more aware and better informed? I know Melissa gave an example in her question with regards to some of these phishing emails that come through her company or whatnot, and you get them and you caught in between trying to unsubscribe. I think she had asked the question in that light where, okay, do you just not open it up? Do you leave it as it is? Do you block it? What do we do to better understand those kinds of risks, as well as how can we better help people understand the importance of cybersecurity and how that affects them?
Sure. The problem is that we are approaching it as a technology problem, number one. And number two, we're approaching it as an awareness problem. It is not an awareness problem, because awareness, this is why the evolution of the discipline from 1991 till now is kind of important, because this whole awareness culture started in the 1990s. So once again, if you read some of my work, you will see that I talk about what was in 1990. It was the world of information security. And over there, awareness was the issue. We needed to make people aware of how to do security. Well, awareness doesn't really work. People don't really care about security. What they care about is how to do their job better. So just security awareness training divorced from job-related training does not work. So what works is developing a perpetual innovation culture. And that's what I have talked about. So you really need to uplift the entire skill level of the people in the use of the various technology. Part of the problem is that we're teaching them, don't click on this link and all that, and yet we're sending them links that are often very useful. So they're used to clicking on links that are actually useful most of the time. But we haven't elevated their level of training to recognize what is useful, what is not. We haven't done that because they're still technologically where they used to be, because we're not giving them any additional training on their job role. You see, awareness training never works. That is not something I ever did. What I always did was job-related training. So if somebody was a nuclear engineer or a doctor or a nurse, what I did was they already had that doctor training, nurse training, whatever training. And I said, okay, what information, what technology, what data, what systems are you using? And then we would develop and overlay that training into their job-related training. And that would be periodically updated. We also had people as representatives in their work group who were trained even better to continue that. So we call them, in those days we used to call them local area network coordinators. Today we might call them cybersecurity champions. This is also an issue that has been covered in my book, where I talk about that you have to sustain that culture. And it is all about job productivity training. So I would recommend that we stop doing cybersecurity awareness training and do a better job of job-related training that includes how to keep the information protected, better, safe, and then not just protection from the hackers, but also the integrity of the information, right? And sometimes it is information that shouldn't be available to even people within your company.
Access control.
Access control properly, exactly. And then the retirement of the information. And then when people leave, what happens? And then what happens when people make mistakes? So these are things that we're not really doing. And the other thing is that we're not investing in the people. Too many companies are looking at this as a technology problem, and they are trying to buy technology. As a matter of fact, that's what most technology vendors are also saying. They're saying, just buy my technology and you'll be great. And you see TV ads like that, which we know is total nonsense, right? No technology can ever fix this. This requires three things: people first, then the policies, and then finally the technology. So part of the problem is that we're not spending enough on people. The other thing is that we have a huge brain drain going on in every company, because companies are not really giving importance to the people. They're laying them off left and right. So every
Right.
time you lay off somebody, what happens? You lose intellectual property.
Right.
All of a sudden, you will hear that there are some companies that used to offshore things are now bringing them into the US. Well, that is also something that I covered in my book, because it was something that I was not very happy about, because what I saw that was going on was a huge intellectual property loss, where people don't realize that a lot of the information are in the people's brains, not in any system. So if you train other people, say in other countries, all of a sudden they could become your competitors, and much cheaply. And so, and because the other thing that was going on was this craziness about reducing cost and paying workers as little as possible. And to me, that never made any sense, because we should not be worried about how less the worker makes. What we should worry about is, are the profits being shared equitably according to production?
Correct.
Right? If I am bringing in $117 million worth of revenue, shouldn't my compensation reflect some of that?
That's true. That's accurate. Absolutely.
Why should the CEO or just the executives in power take away all the profits? That doesn't make any sense. And then should I really be laid off at the whim of the CEO and looked at as expense? Because what happens? You saw even what happened with the UMGC layoff. My layoff actually caused a huge revenue drain because I was bringing in thousands of students.
Wow. Wow.
Right? So within 3 months, I think about 86 people that I was already talking to and they were about to join decided not to join because I was no longer going to be there to take care of them.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because the credibility, because who's the brand of the program? Somebody has to be the face of the program, somebody credible. You cannot have a PhD in English being the face of the program. That simply will not be credible.
That's true. Absolutely. Because nobody sees nobody gets a sense of their background, how that background will implicate or affect positively that particular program, since they don't have much experience in it. So, wow, that's very insightful. Very, very insightful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. But my next question, is almost like a continuation of what I believe Robert had mentioned earlier, with in regards to like the program as well. Like, how do we, because I'm looking at a PhD program now, how do we incorporate, like, say, artificial intelligence into understanding cyber threat? Like, how can we link both concepts and utilize artificial intelligence to, to better understand how people or threat actors are doing what they do, and to better mitigate and help organizations understand how to better mitigate some of the threats that they have coming to them?
Artificial intelligence by itself is a huge body of knowledge, and there are new researchers coming in that realm. As a matter of fact, I was a dissertation advisor for somebody who was doing work in that area. Every artificial intelligence also has biases. So this is something that we need to be cognizant of. Just because it is artificial intelligence doesn't make it perfect. Because at the end of the day, we must recognize that the job of artificial intelligence isn't to replace humans. The job of artificial intelligence is to make humans better at their job. To give you a simple example, in the area of healthcare, artificial intelligence will allow us to narrow down the choices better. So for example, artificial intelligence could look at an entire patient history and tell you that, oh, because this patient has this history and has all these medicines, these are your 4 or 5 choices that are probably safe for this patient. Now the doctor can make a better decision, which is less risky. So that's the role of artificial intelligence, where it helps humans to process more data, more information than they normally could have, and then come up with better answers. Any company that is simply trying to implement artificial intelligence as a replacement for humans are not going to do very well, because artificial intelligence has cultural biases, has gender biases, training biases. I mean, the number of biases that are in any artificial intelligence system is simply amazing. So there's a whole body of literature on that.
Mm-hmm.
So people need to be aware of that.
Yes, I mean, I guess
Yeah,
people,
fantastic talking with you, Nicholas.
sure.
So I really enjoyed you coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Take care. And now I'm going to open up for networking if people are there.